The emergency beacon pierced through the silence of Station Kepler 442's medical bay at AO 347 hours. Arya Chen, the night shift xenobiological nurse, jerked awake from her brief rest, her neural implant immediately flooding her consciousness with vital readings that made no sense. "Oscar, get to Medbay 3, now!" She was already running, her magnetic boots clanging against the metal corridor floors. "What's the situation?" Oscar Reeves, the station's chief xenobiologist, responded through the comm. His voice carried the grogginess of interrupted sleep. "Draconis rubrum, pregnant, critical condition." There was a pause. "That's impossible. The red dragons went extinct 2 centuries ago during the Proxima Wars. Tell that to the 5-ton specimen currently bleeding out in my operating theater." When Oscar burst through the airlock 7 minutes later, he froze. The creature before them was magnificent and terrifying in equal measure. Her scales, the color of oxidized iron in starlight, rose and fell with labored breathing. Bioluminescent veins pulsed beneath her translucent wing membranes, growing dimmer with each passing second. But what stopped Oscar's heart wasn't her size or her legendary status, it was her eyes. Those ancient golden eyes held an intelligence that predated human civilization. They held mathematics, philosophy, and a desperate maternal plea. "She's been scanning our database," Arya said, her hands moving rapidly across holographic displays. "Linguistic patterns, medical protocols, everything. She's trying to communicate." The dragon's throat vibrated, and the universal translator sparked to life. The voice that emerged was layered with harmonics that seemed to resonate from another dimension. "Help, my child, please." Arya's professional composure cracked for just a moment. She'd delivered hundreds of xenobiological offspring across dozens of species, but never had a patient begged her with such raw emotion. "Her core temperature is dropping," Oscar announced, his scanner painting the air with data streams. "Internal hemorrhaging in 3 of her 4 hearts. Radiation poisoning. Looks like she flew through the Andromeda Drift to get here." "Why would she do that?" Arya's hands were already prepping surgical drones, her enhanced reflexes working in perfect synchronization with the station's AI. The dragon's breathing became more ragged. Through the translator, words formed between gasps. "Last of my kind. Hunted. Experiments. They took my mate. My clutch. This egg. Only survivor." Arya met Oscar's eyes across the operating field. They both understood. The Terran Genetic Preservation Corps had been accused of harvesting endangered xenobiological species for decades, but never with proof. If this dragon had escaped from one of their black sites— "We'll save your child," Arya promised, surprised by the conviction in her own voice. "I swear it." The dragon's tail moved, a gesture that seemed almost like gratitude, and then her secondary eyelids closed. "She's going into cardiac cascade," Oscar warned. "All 4 hearts are failing. Prepare for emergency extraction. We need to get that egg out now." The surgery was unlike anything Arya had performed before. Dragon physiology operated on principles that bent conventional biology. Their cellular structure incorporated quantum entanglement at the molecular level, their nervous systems processing information across dimensional boundaries that human science barely understood. But Arya had spent 15 years mastering the impossible, and she wasn't about to fail now. Oscar assisted with the precision of a concert pianist, his xenobiological knowledge filling gaps in real time as they encountered biological systems never before documented. The dragon's body was a cathedral of evolutionary perfection, each organ a masterpiece of adaptive design. "I've got visual on the egg," Arya breathed. It was massive, nearly a meter in diameter, and it glowed with an inner light that seemed to pulse in rhythm with dying mother's fading heartbeats. The extraction took 47 minutes. When they finally lifted the egg free, placing it in a specialized incubation chamber, the dragon's primary eyes opened one last time. "Teach her," she whispered through the translator. "Teach her. We were not monsters. We loved. We dreamed. We built civilizations, while your species still learned fire." Arya gripped the dragon's massive claw, feeling the heat fading from scales that had survived 1,000 battles. "I will. I promise." "My name," the dragon's voice was barely audible now, "was Keltharian Sunweaver. My daughter, name her as you wish, but tell her mother's name." The 4 hearts stopped in sequence, each one a diminishing drumbeat of a life that had spanned 3 centuries. Arya felt tears streaming down her face, something she hadn't allowed herself since her first year of residency. Oscar placed a hand on her shoulder. "Arya, look." The egg was changing. Fractures of golden light spread across its crimson surface, and through the incubation chamber's transparent walls, they could see movement. "She's hatching early," Oscar said, his voice filled with wonder. The trauma of losing her mother triggered an emergency maturation sequence. What emerged wasn't the small, helpless creature they'd expected. She was the size of a large dog, her scales gleaming like polished rubies, her wings already strong enough to flutter. But it was when she opened her eyes, those same ancient, golden eyes, that Arya understood the true weight of Keltharian's final gift. Dragons weren't just intelligent. They carried genetic memory. This child remembered everything her mother knew, every moment of her species' long history, every equation they'd solved, every star they'd mapped, every philosophical truth they'd discovered. The hatchling looked at Arya and spoke, her voice young but clear. "Mother said, you promised to teach me, but I think I am here to teach you." Oscar pulled up his scanner, his hands shaking. "Arya, her neural structure, it's processing information at quantum speeds. She's already accessing the station's database, learning standard at exponential rates." The young dragon tilted her head, a gesture achingly reminiscent of her mother. "I am the last of the red dragons. My name was supposed to be Solarius Dreamfire, but Mother said you could choose. What would you call me?" Arya knelt before the incubation chamber, her medical oath suddenly feeling inadequate for the responsibility before her. She thought of Keltharian's dying words, of the civilization that had been systematically erased, of the burden this child would carry. "Your name is Solarius Keltharian Dreamfire," Arya said firmly, "and you will never forget who you are or where you came from." The dragon hatchling's eyes glowed brighter. "Then help me understand, Arya Chen. Help me understand why your species feared mine enough to make us extinct, because when I am grown, I will ask those questions of the ones who killed my mother, and they will answer." Oscar met Arya's gaze over the incubation chamber. They both knew what this meant. They'd just become guardians to the last dragon, a creature whose very existence would shake the foundations of human authority across the known galaxy. But as Arya watched Solarius spread her wings for the first time, she felt no fear, only a fierce, protective determination. Keltharian's final gift wasn't just her daughter, it was the truth, and Arya would make sure that truth survived no matter the cost. Outside the medical bay, the stars continued their ancient dance, unaware that in one small corner of the universe, a species thought extinct had just been reborn, and with it, a reckoning that would change humanity forever.